So I was gone. I did have a chance to visit with my family. We were all gathered together over in North Carolina for the marriage of my niece, Rachel, to now her husband, Carl. They had to work this week, and today they left for their honeymoon. So it's a little bit out of order, but they're going on a extensive, I think it's close to 3 weeks, got some time away from their work to go to Europe. Now, here's the thing. Carl, who's a little bit older, he's in his mid-30s, has done a lot of travel in his time. He's enjoyed doing that, so he kind of knows his way around Europe. But my niece Rachel is kind of a go-getter as well. And so I'm going to tell you something that if you would know her, you would find even more amazing. And that is, like I said, they're going to Europe. And I think I know a couple places they're going to, but she has no idea. Like they just got on the plane and she still doesn't even know where they're landing later today, let alone all the other places they're going to. Now that's a commitment, huh? That's like really letting go and trusting your life with somebody else. Of course, she can do that because she knows he's committed to her as much as she's made that commitment to him. You know, the image of marriage is a wonderful way of thinking, not just about our relationship with Christ. And when I say our relationship with Christ, not just on a personal level, that closeness, that intimacy, that one-on-one nature that we have with God, but particularly as we talk about Christ, the bridegroom, with us, the church, in a collective sense, as the bride. And it's helpful because part of what we say is going on in the Eucharist, we celebrate the body and blood of Christ today, is that it's a continuation of the marriage feast, of the relationship, the covenant relationship that we celebrate with God in the person of Jesus, truly present in the Eucharist. But that also means that, like a good marriage, that part of what we're doing when we gather together is that we recommit ourselves to that covenant relationship. Now, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. Because sometimes, let's be honest, we show up and we're not sure where we're at with Jesus this past week or coming up into the next week. We're not sure that we could maybe trust him to say, because listen, we don't really know what's going to happen in this next week, let alone tomorrow. I mean, we think we know, but in some ways we're always trusting what's coming up next to the Lord. And are we committed enough to follow him wherever he leads us? Because sometimes we think we know where things should go and we're not following. And then we wonder why things aren't going so well. And so part of the Eucharist is we come forward and we recommit ourselves to that covenant relationship. We say to Jesus, I promise my life to you. In a way, what we're doing is that's part of the offering that we're making. The offering of our whole lives. The offering of ourselves to the Lord. Now, when we make an offering, we're also exercising part of what it means to be baptized, which is the priestly nature of our baptism. That we are making an offering of ourselves, and that we make a lot of offerings on behalf of others as well. That's in our prayers and all the ways that we try to live our life out in love and service to others. We do that to Christ, who is the high priest himself, continually offering himself. So our offerings are really just joining our own offerings to the offerings of Christ. And it wasn't just from the past that he made that ultimate offering of his life on the cross, but the continual effects of that, of his offering to himself to the Father. And so the offering is as we heard in our first reading today, it's mixed into one of the somewhat obscure priests of the Old Testament, but then he comes up again actually in the letter to the Hebrews. We don't hear him in the other readings, but we heard him about where he first appears, Melchizedek. Who's this Melchizedek? Well, he's a priest that lives forever. He was kind of tied into the eternity of God. And it makes sense that of all the other people that would make offerings and act in the line of a priest, if you the priestly role, that he would be the one when Christ comes, because he is the eternal priest, always offering himself for us, that he gets linked to Melchizedek. And that's why when we come to the Eucharist, that we need to remember that the commitment goes two ways. And that oftentimes we have some doubts about our commitment. Am I really ready to make an offering of my life to the Lord for this week? And sometimes we just know it's kind of weak. But we connect that to the eternal offering of Jesus in the line of the priestly line of Melchizedek, of all the priests. And when we do that, then Jesus is perfecting our offering. He's helping us to make that commitment, because we are connecting to his wonderful, unconditional offering of himself on the cross. During the wedding, this was at the Duke University Chapel. It's about a 100-year-old building, and it is huge. It is so huge that when you are at one end of the aisle, like you're getting ready to come up as the bride, and the groom is already in place, you can't really see exactly what's going on. Because as it came to the beginning of the ceremony, we see Rachel thinks that Carl is almost like laughing, because he sees, all she can really see is his shoulders going like this. That's not what was happening. Now, I'm kind of a wedding expert. I've done lots of weddings in my own priestly career. And I have never, ever see a groom break down in tears, sobbing uncontrollably, having to have his own mother come up and console him. And there was such a long aisle that she could console him and then get back to her seat before the bride got up there. And he was just weeping the whole time she was coming up. It was moving for all of us because of how moved he was once he saw his bride. And that is what's happening with us, particularly when we come forward down the aisle to the Lord, to our groom, who is so filled, moved with joy to tears, because we come forward in all the imperfect ways that we are ready to make an offering of our lives and that commitment, ready to receive us. The miracle that we heard in the gospel, in a deserted place where there was hardly anything, and taking what little could be offered for the whole crowd. 5 loaves, 2 fish, not much, just nothing. And yet Jesus takes that and makes the ongoing miracle that his love does and makes it superabundant. This is what we're participating in the Eucharist. And we want to be real intent on following Jesus and continuing to make our commitment to him and needing this help to make that offering to the eternal priest. But he's receiving us and cannot wait to share once again in that closeness that we have in communion. Later on, the next day, we got to see the happy couple hanging out. And I said to Carl, Carl, what were you thinking as you were breaking down in tears? What was going through your mind that caused you to just be so full of those tears of joy? And what he said was, Well, I've known for a while that I wanted Rachel to be my wife. But when I saw her, I really knew that I wanted her to be my wife. We come forward. Christ, our bridegroom, sees us, knows us, is moved by us. And no matter where we think we are in that commitment, we just see him wanting us forever. He is in the line of the priest Melchizedek, and we are his faithful people. As we come forward once again in this great sacrament of our faith, let us not be afraid to recommit ourselves to him. Let's not be afraid in this act of the miracle to just simply say, Amen.